Anyways, a lot to do today. It's waiver wire day, very busy waiver wire day, and because of that, Justin Jefferson managers, you drink free. We're sorry. We feel for you. Hopefully, we're here to help you.
Why can't we have nice things? Why can't we have nice things?
I know. First time he's ever really been hurt as well. He's one of those guys who just seems indestructible because he's just seemingly not of this planet, but he's going to be out at least 4 weeks, hopefully not too much longer than that. And we'll talk about what to do in his place. I mean, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborn are the two obvious ones, but there'll be a lot of other wide receivers on the waiver wire.
You've done this since it was invented. Is this a bad injury season, unlike we've seen in a bit? It just has that feel to it.
I mean, I haven't looked at any of the data, but it does feel like every year there are injuries. But it does feel like this year there are bigger name guys that are going down, right? And so, I mean, and you even started that way, right? I mean, again, with Cooper Kupp, missing the first 4 weeks, Jonathan Taylor missing the first 4 weeks. For people that drafted in the first 2 weeks of August, you're like, we haven't even started. And all of a sudden, 2 of our guys are out, and then, and then Nick Chubb goes down. He's out for the year. I mean,
Saquon.
Eckler, Saquon. I mean, whatever. Deshaun Watson. I mean, it just feels like on and on. Every week there's somebody. What's crazy is that it took me a second to even remember Nick Chubb was out for the year because it has been such a horrible cycle. It is a violent sport. It is one of the reasons why when I play, I'm so shifty. I just, very yourself. Emmitt Smith, I don't get hit dead on. That's the thing. It's just, everyone's just like, how have you been able to play so long? I never take a direct hit. I'm always kind of shifting. You know what I mean? And so I a lot on the side, a lot of the hip, and that kind of stuff. But never want to get full on. That's the if you just keep shifting, it's hard to get a really bead on you.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, here's the thing: is that with particularly the running back position, and obviously we're talking about a wide receiver here, but the running back position, I mean, there's just so much attrition there. We saw what happened to Nick Chubb. We saw what happened to other guys going down. There's about a 4% chance in any given game that a running back will get hurt meaningfully. And so that's pretty significant when you think about it. And Justin Jefferson, who has been so durable, he's had a little couple of scares with cramping.
Before we get into Justin Jefferson real quickly, but again, you think about T. Higgins. I mean, you think about some of these guys that every week there's been somebody that was drafted in the first 3 rounds.
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams out for the year. I mean, again, another one that's been absolutely brutal. And then there have been. The crazy part is that the healthiest, J.K. Dobbins, out for the year, right? I mean, another guy, you're just but the craziest part is that the healthiest guy is Chris McCaffrey.
Bizarro world.
Chris McCaffrey's indestructible.
I think that points to the idea that we've talked about before, is that in fantasy and in betting as well, fade the idea that someone's injury prone, because you're injury prone until you're not, and you're not injury prone until you get hurt. And someone
play.
Saquon Barkley, a year ago coming into the season, no one wanted a part of him because of all the injuries. Then he was just basically fully healthy last season. Now he's hurt again. Christian McCaffrey was fully healthy last season, fully healthy this season as well, after dealing with injuries for 3 years. So, I mean, it just is what it is.
Right. Darren Waller's been out there for every game, just hasn't seemed like it.
I was going to make that joke about Najee Harris.
Yeah, same thing. He's just seemed injured.
With
that, but anyway, all of it is brutal. Let's get into Justin Jefferson.
And let's jump into the Roto-World Player News.
Yeah, Roto-World Player News available at rotoworld.com, of course, on a company man.
And listen, obviously the Justin Jefferson news, real soul-crushing. He's placed on IR with the hamstring. We got to hear from his head coach, Kevin O'Connell, yesterday on the status of Jefferson.
He's down today. He obviously is one of the most ultra competitors I've ever met, and shoot, he was trying to go back in the game as it was yesterday. So we're going to have to medically make a good decision and help, kind of almost protect him from himself a little bit in a way where we got to take care of him and get him back to 100%.
So that's ultimately what the Vikings do as they place him on IR. We don't know if this will be a minimum stay. We don't know if this will be. And right now, here's the reality too, guys. The Vikings have 1 win.
Thank you.
They have 1 win.
That's the exact thing.
We don't know where their season is going, but it hasn't been good so far. They've lost a lot of close games, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day in the NFL, Jay. Okay. How do they rush him back?
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say that, I mean, that is the problem. We saw what happened with Cooper Kupp last season, where he had an injury where it felt like he was probably going to come back at the end of the year if the Rams were in contention, but they weren't. And this Vikings team, they have new management the past couple of years, and it seems like they've wanted to kind of rebuild. And Kirk Cousins, his contract situation, like they will want a new quarterback.
Yes.
And they can get one at the top of the draft. So I would think that they're going to let Justin Jefferson take as long as he needs, Matthew.
At Chicago this week, he's missing the next 4 games. We know that at a minimum. And here's the Vikings' next 4 games. At Chicago, home to San Francisco, at Green Bay, at Atlanta. Those 2 tough road, at Green Bay, good defense. At Atlanta, a much better defense than they get credit for. The only quote-unquote winnable game is at Chicago. I mean, again, you don't love their chances against San Francisco. On the road at Green Bay and on the road at Atlanta, you could see both those games being losses. So there's a chance, guys, that they are, at the end of this, they are 1-7, they are 2-6, something like that, to your point. Exactly. Kirk Cousins has been rumored going to the Jets. Is there a quarterback? Because, again, he's owed like over $40 million, some insane number. Yeah. They want to move on from, or if nothing else, a really restructured deal, given the price of quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think Kirk's taking a pay cut. And so you just wonder, hey, Caleb Williams out there, Drake May's out there.
Yep.
We're 1-7. You know what, Justin? You just take your time. We're going to go back, and maybe they do trade Kirk Cousins to a team like the Jets or something like that, right? And get something out of it. And, if the Jets say, we'll take the rest of his contract and give you a 2 for him, do the Vikings say no? And they've lost Jefferson for 4 weeks? 26% of the Vikings targets are now available. Anyway, we'll talk about the impact on the Vikings, but there's a chance there's a non-zero chance we've seen the last of Justin Jefferson this year.
Yeah, that's definitely in play. I do think he will come back, though, just because I think the NFC is just so weak outside of 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys, Lions. There's no one else who really scares you in those last couple of wild card spots that don't go to whoever doesn't win the division out of Dallas and Philadelphia. I think if the Vikings can just tread water, and look, these games, they'll probably be dogs, at Green Bay, at Atlanta without Jefferson, but those are winnable games.
They are.
I've already seen Jordan Love or Desmond Ridder lately. Then it's, at Denver, Chicago again before the bye week. They could tread
schedule.
water. The only,
they beat Chicago. They beat Chicago this week. They split Green Bay and Atlanta. Say they lose to San Francisco, and so then you're looking at their 3-4.
No, they're 3-6. But then it's home New Orleans, at Denver, home Chicago. They could get to 5-7 or something like that.
They could get to 5-7 to bye, and then you're you're still alive.
Not what they want. Yeah. You don't want to be a 7-win team if you're Minnesota.
Well, I think they're kind of the definition of one. I think the team is still not bad.
Then you're the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we've been a 7-win team, 7 to 9 win team every single day, and then you're in quarterback hell. And
most people say purgatory. I like that you said hell.
Yeah.
No, hell.
Yeah, no,
it's hell.
It's more accurate.
Hell.
The question is with Jordan Addison what his ceiling is now, because he is the big beneficiary. I know that KJ Osborn's playing a ton of snaps. Jordan Addison's better than KJ Osborn. I think they're going to lean on him more. And so obviously if he's on any waiver wire, he's your number 1 pick.
He's he's not 100% rostered. He's rostered in most leagues, and certainly if he's out there, he would be my number 1 pick. But why don't we go to the wide receiver waiver, and we'll talk about Devon Achane, and we'll talk about Anthony Richardson and all the other injuries. It's a huge injury week. We will get into that James Conner news as well when we get to the waiver wire positions, the waivers for those positions. But let's start here and talk about KJ Osborn. To your point, Jay, about playing a lot of snaps. 91% snap rate this year for KJ Osborn. Believe it or not, he's actually tied for the team league in red zone targets. He's had 15 career games with 6 or more targets. He's averaging 15.5 fantasy points per game. And so an offense that has to throw to keep up, they've been inefficient running the ball. They haven't been able to play defense this year. And so Cousins is going to have to continue to throw. And while we like Addison to get the biggest bump, and certainly Hawkinson will be more a part of that offense as well, you can make an argument Hawkinson's the number 1 tight end the rest of the way. Him, because Kelsey hasn't been Kelsey in capital letters this year, and Andrews has been inconsistent. There's certainly an argument that from this point forward, TJ Hawkinson's the number 1 tight end in fantasy. But KJ Osborn, who's available in 91% of Yahoo leagues, is my number 1 wide receiver target. He's going to be a top 2 wide receiver on a pass-first offense for at least the next 4 weeks.
What I really like about the Minnesota offense as well, from a fantasy perspective, is Brian Flores is blitzing over 50% of the time. So their defense is bad, and they die quickly because they're blitzing all the time, so you get the ball back straight away, which is fantastic. I don't think anyone else is blitzing more than 40%, and Brian Flores is over 50%. Rate. But Connor, what do you think of KJ Osborn as a player? Because is he actually going to take a leap? Because we talked about the snap count. He hasn't gone 50 yards in a game so far this season, and it feels like a lot of his rep is just that game against Indianapolis last year where he went off in that comeback.
I'm a little skeptical. He feels like somebody that you would like to move inside and outside, and I feel like they'd also like to do that with Jordan Addison, and you have Hockenson who can play off the line of scrimmage. It feels like to me, and I think this piggybacks your point, the volume just cranks up for Addison and Hockenson, and maybe even they throw a little to Cam Akers. I know that sounds crazy. Then Osborn being this hero right away.
Jefferson had 26.5% of their targets. Like a fourth of their targets went to one guy.
He gets like 40% of their yards.
I mean, right, it's unbelievable. I mean, prior to week 5, he'd had at least 24 fantasy points in every game. I mean, like, so it's just, there's just the fact that he's just quote unquote not earning targets, like the fact that you aren't earning targets when Justin Jefferson is on the other side of the field isn't a fair knock on KJ Osborn. And do I think he's elite? No, I don't. But do I think he's going to get a lot of run on a better than average offense? I do. And Kirk Cousins is somebody that is a good enough quarterback to get the ball and distribute him. Yes, he's living a little bit off of that Colts game, but like he's not terrible. Like they liked him enough to let Adam Thielen walk this season. This is a playoff team last year that had Super Bowl aspirations this year, and they did not bring Adam Thielen back because of the confidence they had in Osborn taking another step, in Hockenson, and of course the draft pick in Addison.
Which is a bad decision because apparently Adam Thielen's just Stephon Diggs now. No.
Yes, bad decision.
So for Osborn, maybe a viable flex play with Jefferson out, right?
I would think so.
That's fair.
Listen, against Chicago this week, he'll be a top 30 wide receiver.
Big part of it.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.